The coffee incident. Elena Chen's morning started like any other terrible Monday. Her alarm didn't go off, her portfolio presentation was due in 2 hours, and she had exactly $12 in her bank account until Friday. She rushed into Cornerstone Cafe, her laptop bag swinging wildly from her shoulder, already rehearsing her pitch in her head. "One large coffee, black, please," she said breathlessly to the barista. She paid with her card, praying it wouldn't decline, and grabbed the steaming cup. As she turned toward the door, she collided with something solid. The coffee exploded across a pristine white shirt and an expensive gray suit. "Oh my God," Elena gasped, staring at the disaster she'd created. The man stood perfectly still, coffee dripping from his chest. He was tall, probably in his early 30s, with sharp features and dark eyes that seemed to calculate everything in an instant. His jaw was set tight, and Elena could see the frustration building behind his controlled expression. "I am so sorry," Elena stammered, grabbing napkins from the nearby counter. "Let me help you." She started dabbing at his shirt, but he caught her wrist gently. His hand was warm and firm. "Don't," he said quietly. His voice was deep and calm, which somehow made it worse. "You'll make it worse." Elena pulled back, her face burning with embarrassment. "I'll pay for the dry cleaning. I promise. Just give me your card and I'll—" "Forget it," he interrupted, his eyes scanning her face with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "Just watch where you're going next time." He walked past her toward the bathroom, leaving Elena standing there with a handful of useless napkins. She noticed other customers staring at her. Humiliated, she grabbed her bag and rushed out of the cafe. The rejection. 2 hours later, Elena sat in the sleek conference room of Apex Design Group, one of the most prestigious design firms in the city. Her hands trembled slightly as she presented her portfolio to 3 executives. She had poured her heart into this presentation for weeks. "Your technical skills are adequate," said the woman at the head of the table, Ms. Rivera. "But your concepts lack the sophistication we require at Apex." Elena's heart sank. "I can revise the designs. If you give me specific feedback, I can." "We're looking for someone who understands our vision instinctively," Ms. Rivera continued, closing the portfolio. "I don't think you're the right fit." Elena gathered her materials, trying to keep her composure. "Thank you for your time." As she walked through the glass doors of Apex, she felt her dreams crumbling. This was the 5th rejection in 3 months. Her freelance work barely covered rent. She was running out of options. The unexpected offer. 3 days later, Elena was working at her small apartment, designing a logo for a local bakery, when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Elena Chen?" The voice was professional and crisp. "Yes, speaking. This is Michael Torres from Apex Design Group. We'd like to offer you a 6-month contract position." Elena nearly dropped her phone. "I'm sorry, what?" "A contract position," Michael repeated. "Starting Monday. The pay is $60,000 for 6 months, with potential for permanent placement." Elena's mind raced. This didn't make sense. They had rejected her portfolio 3 days ago. "Why?" she asked suspiciously. "Ms. Rivera said I wasn't a good fit." There was a pause. "Our CEO reviewed your work personally. He was impressed. He'd like to give you an opportunity." "Your CEO?" Elena asked. Apex's CEO was famously private. She'd never even seen a photo of him. "Yes. Can we count on you for Monday?" Elena thought about her bank account, her overdue rent, her dying career. "Yes," she said. "I'll be there." The first day. Monday morning, Elena arrived at Apex wearing her best blazer and carrying a new notebook. Michael Torres met her in the lobby, a friendly man in his 40s with graying hair. "Welcome to Apex," he said warmly. "Let me show you around." The office was everything Elena had dreamed of. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern workstations, walls covered with award-winning designs. Michael introduced her to the team, 12 designers who all seemed talented and confident. "You'll be working on the Meridian Hotel project," Michael explained as they walked. "It's one of our biggest accounts. Your job is to support the lead designer, Marcus Webb." Marcus was standing at a large table covered with sketches when they approached. He was in his late 20s, good-looking, and wore an expression that suggested he found everything slightly boring. "Marcus, this is Elena Chen, your new team member," Michael said. Marcus looked up, his eyes sweeping over Elena with barely concealed disdain. "The contract hire," he said flatly. "Great. Another temp to train." Elena felt her cheeks flush, but she extended her hand. "I'm looking forward to working with you." Marcus shook her hand briefly, then turned back to his sketches. "Just try to keep up." Michael gave Elena an apologetic look and led her to her desk. "Don't mind Marcus. He's brilliant, but not great with people." For the rest of the day, Elena worked quietly, trying to prove herself. Marcus gave her menial tasks, organizing files, making copies, fetching coffee. By 5 o'clock, she felt more like an assistant than a designer. As she was packing up to leave, the office suddenly went quiet. Elena looked up and saw people straightening in their chairs, faces turning toward the elevator. A man stepped out. Elena's stomach dropped. It was him. The man from the cafe. The coffee incident. He walked through the office with the same controlled intensity she remembered. He wore a black suit today, perfectly tailored, and his presence seemed to command attention without effort. People greeted him nervously. "Good evening, Mr. Thornton," someone said. Thornton. That was the CEO's name. Alexander Thornton. Elena's mind spun. This couldn't be happening. The man she'd humiliated with coffee was her boss. Her CEO. The person who had personally approved her hiring. Alexander's eyes swept across the office, and then they landed on her. He stopped walking. For a moment, neither of them moved. Elena saw recognition flash across his face, followed by something else. Something calculating. He walked toward her desk. The entire office was watching. "Miss Chen," he said, his voice as calm as it had been in the cafe. "Welcome to Apex." Elena stood up quickly, nearly knocking over her chair. "Mr. Thornton. I didn't realize. I didn't know. That I was the CEO?" He smiled slightly. It wasn't a warm smile. "Most people don't recognize me outside the office. I prefer it that way." "About the coffee," Elena started, her voice barely steady. "I really am." "Already forgotten," Alexander interrupted. "I'm more interested in your work. I reviewed your portfolio. You have potential." Elena blinked. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Alexander said. "Potential means nothing without results. I expect excellence from everyone here. Can you deliver?" "Yes," Elena said firmly, meeting his eyes. "I can." Alexander held her gaze for a long moment, as if measuring her. Then he nodded once and walked toward his private office at the far end of the floor. As soon as he was gone, Elena sank into her chair. Her heart was pounding. Around her, the office slowly returned to normal, but she could feel people glancing at her with curiosity. The setup. Over the next 2 weeks, Elena worked harder than she ever had in her life. She stayed late, came in early, and put everything she had into every task Marcus gave her. But Marcus seemed determined to make her fail. He criticized every design she produced. He gave her impossible deadlines. He excluded her from important meetings. And whenever she tried to contribute ideas, he shut her down in front of the team. "That won't work," he'd say dismissively. "You don't understand the client's vision." Elena gritted her teeth and kept working. She couldn't afford to lose this job. One evening, she was alone in the office working on revisions when she heard footsteps. She looked up and saw Alexander standing a few feet away. "Working late again," he observed. "Just finishing some designs," Elena said, closing her laptop slightly. She still felt nervous around him. Alexander walked closer and glanced at her screen. "The Meridian project?" "Yes." Marcus asked for 3 more concept variations by tomorrow morning. Alexander's expression hardened slightly. "That's excessive." "It's fine," Elena said quickly. "I can handle it." Alexander pulled up a chair and sat down beside her. Elena tensed. He was close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. "Show me what you have," he said. Elena hesitated, then opened her laptop. She showed him the designs she'd been working on for the hotel lobby. Modern, elegant, with warm tones and natural materials. Alexander studied them carefully. "These are good," he said finally. "Better than Marcus's original concepts." Elena looked at him in surprise. "Really?" "You have an eye for spatial harmony," Alexander continued. "Marcus is technically skilled, but his designs lack warmth. Yours feel lived in. Real." It was the first genuine compliment Elena had received since starting at Apex. She felt something loosen in her chest. "Thank you," she said softly. Alexander turned to look at her. His dark eyes were intense, searching. "Why are you really here, Elena?" The question caught her off guard. "What do you mean?" "You could have refused the job after the cafe incident," Alexander said. "Most people would have been too embarrassed. But you came anyway." "Why?" Elena met his gaze. "Because I need this job. Because I'm good at what I do, and I'm tired of people not seeing that. Because I don't give up." Something shifted in Alexander's expression. "Good," he said quietly. "Neither do I." He stood up and walked toward his office. At the door, he paused and looked back. "Submit your designs directly to me tomorrow," he said. "Not to Marcus." Elena stared at him. "But Marcus is the lead designer. If I go around him—" "I don't care about office politics," Alexander interrupted. "I care about the best work. Send them to me." He disappeared into his office, leaving Elena alone with her racing thoughts. The sabotage. The next morning, Elena arrived early and sent her designs to Alexander as instructed. Then she went to the conference room for the weekly team meeting. Marcus was already there, along with the rest of the design team. He looked angry. "I heard you sent designs directly to Thornton," Marcus said coldly as soon as she walked in. Elena kept her voice steady. "He asked me to." "He asked you to undermine me?" "He asked to see my work," Elena corrected. "That's not undermining anyone." Marcus stood up, his face flushed. "You've been here 2 weeks and you think you can bypass the team structure? You think because Thornton took pity on you, you're special?" Elena felt the rest of the team watching. This was a test. If she backed down now, she'd never recover. "I think I'm here because I'm good at my job," Elena said firmly. "And if my work threatens you, that says more about you than me." Marcus's eyes flashed with anger. "You're going to regret that." Before Elena could respond, the conference room door opened. Alexander walked in, carrying a tablet. The room fell silent. "Good morning," Alexander said calmly. He looked directly at Marcus. "I've reviewed Elena's designs for the Meridian lobby. They're excellent. I'm presenting them to the client this afternoon." Marcus's face went pale. "But those aren't final. They haven't been approved by the team." "I'm approving them," Alexander said. His tone left no room for argument. "Elena will present them to the client with me." Elena's heart skipped. "Present to the client? With the CEO?" "That's not protocol," Marcus protested. "I'm changing protocol," Alexander said. Elena created the work. She should present it. Meeting adjourned. He walked out, leaving the team in stunned silence. Marcus turned to Elena, his expression dark with fury. "This isn't over," he said quietly. Elena didn't respond. She gathered her things and left the room, her hands shaking slightly. She had just made a powerful enemy. But she had also just earned the CEO's support. She didn't know which was more dangerous. Part 2, Dangerous Proximity, 2000 words. The client presentation. That afternoon, Elena found herself sitting in a private conference room with Alexander Thornton and 3 executives from Meridian Hotels. Her mouth was dry, and her hands kept trembling every time she touched the presentation remote. Alexander sat beside her, calm and collected. He had barely spoken to her before the meeting, just given her a brief nod of encouragement. "Good afternoon, gentlemen," Alexander began, his voice commanding the room. "Thank you for meeting with us today. We've developed a new concept for your lobby redesign that I think will exceed your expectations." He gestured to Elena. "Elena Chen, one of our designers, will walk you through the vision." Elena stood up, her legs feeling weak. She clicked to the first slide and began speaking. At first, her voice wavered, but as she explained her design choices, something shifted. She forgot about being nervous. She forgot about Marcus's anger and Alexander's intimidating presence. She just talked about the work she loved. She explained how the warm wood tones created intimacy, how the natural light flow would make guests feel welcomed, how every element served both function and beauty. When she finished, the room was quiet for a moment. Then the lead Meridian executive, a silver-haired man named Richard Chen, smiled. "That's exactly what we've been looking for," he said. "How soon can you start implementation?" Elena looked at Alexander. He was watching her with an unreadable expression. "We can begin immediately," Alexander said. "Elena will lead the project personally." After the clients left, Elena and Alexander stood alone in the conference room. Elena felt like she might collapse from relief and adrenaline. "You did well," Alexander said quietly. "Thank you," Elena managed. "I was terrified." "I know." Alexander walked to the window, looking out at the city. "Fear can be useful. It keeps you sharp." Elena studied his profile. "Why did you really hire me?" she asked suddenly. "It wasn't just my portfolio, was it?" Alexander turned to face her. "No," he admitted. "It wasn't." Elena's stomach tightened. "Then why?" "Because when you spilled coffee on me, you didn't grovel," Alexander said. "You didn't try to flirt your way out of it or make excuses. You took responsibility and moved on. That told me something about your character." "You hired me because I ruined your shirt?" Elena asked incredulously. "I hired you because you didn't let embarrassment paralyze you," Alexander corrected. "Most people would have run. You stayed present. That's rare." Elena didn't know what to say. This man was either brilliant or completely insane. "Also," Alexander added, his tone shifting, "I've been watching your work for months. Before you ever applied to Apex." Elena froze. "What?" The revelation. Alexander walked back to the conference table and pulled out his phone. He scrolled through something, then held it up for Elena to see. It was her website. Her freelance portfolio. "I've been your client," Alexander said calmly. "Anonymous commissions for the past 6 months. The restaurant logo. The boutique hotel branding. The coffee shop redesign. Those were all me." Elena's mind reeled. She grabbed the phone and stared at the screen. The anonymous client who had paid her well, given her creative freedom, and never complained. That had been Alexander Thornton? "Why?" she whispered. "Because I wanted to see how you worked when you didn't know you were being evaluated," Alexander explained. "I wanted to see your raw talent, not a performance for an interview." Elena handed back his phone, her hands shaking. "That's manipulative." That's strategic, Alexander corrected. And it worked. You're exactly as talented as I thought you were. Elena felt anger rising in her chest. You've been lying to me for months. Testing me like some kind of experiment. I've been investing in you, Alexander said, his voice hardening. There's a difference. You had no right. I had every right, Alexander interrupted. This is my company. I decide who I hire and how I evaluate them. If you don't like my methods, you're free to leave. Elena stared at him. Part of her wanted to walk out right now, to tell him what he could do with his manipulative games. But another part of her, the practical part that thought about rent and bills and her dying freelance career, knew she couldn't afford that luxury. I'm not leaving, Elena said coldly. But don't expect me to be grateful for your mind games. Alexander's expression didn't change. I don't need your gratitude. I need your work. He walked toward the door, then paused. The Meridian project is yours now. You report directly to me. We'll meet every Friday to review progress. He left before Elena could respond. Elena sank into a chair, her mind spinning. Everything she thought she knew about her hiring, about Alexander Thornton, about her place at Apex, had just been turned upside down. The X returns. 2 days later, Elena was working at her desk when her phone buzzed with a text from a number she'd deleted months ago. I heard you're working at Apex now. We should talk. David. Elena's chest tightened. David Marsh. Her ex-boyfriend of 3 years. The man who had left her when her career was struggling, saying he needed someone with more ambition. She ignored the text and went back to work. But an hour later, David walked into the Apex office. Elena looked up and felt her stomach drop. He was wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather briefcase. He smiled when he saw her, that same charming smile that had fooled her for so long. Elena, he said warmly. You look amazing. What are you doing here? Elena asked coldly. I'm the new account manager for Meridian Hotels, David said, sitting on the edge of her desk. Looks like we'll be working together. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. This couldn't be happening. The Meridian project is mine, David continued, his smile widening. Which means we'll be seeing a lot of each other. Like old times. Nothing about this is like old times, Elena said firmly. We're done, David. Are we? David leaned closer, lowering his voice. Because I've been thinking about us a lot lately. I made a mistake leaving you. I can see that now. Elena. Alexander's voice cut through the conversation like ice. He was standing a few feet away, his expression unreadable. Who's this? David stood up immediately, extending his hand. David Marsh, Meridian Hotels. I'll be managing the... I know who you are, Alexander interrupted, not taking his hand. I read your file. He looked at Elena. My office. Now. Elena followed Alexander across the office, feeling David's eyes on her back. When they reached Alexander's private office, he closed the door behind them. I assume that's personal history, Alexander said, his tone clipped. He's my ex-boyfriend, Elena admitted. I didn't know he'd be working on this project. Will it be a problem? No, Elena said firmly. I can handle it. Alexander studied her for a long moment. If he makes you uncomfortable, tell me. I'll have him removed from the account. Elena blinked in surprise. You'd do that? This is your project, Alexander said. I won't let anyone sabotage it. Including an ex-boyfriend with bad timing. Something warm flickered in Elena's chest, but she pushed it down. Thank you, but that won't be necessary. I can handle David. Alexander nodded slowly. Then prove it. Late-night collaboration. Over the next few weeks, Elena threw herself into the Meridian project. She worked late every night, perfecting every detail. David tried to corner her several times, suggesting dinners and coffee meetings, but Elena kept everything strictly professional. Marcus, still bitter about being replaced, spread rumors around the office. Elena overheard whispers in the break room, "She's sleeping with Thornton. That's why she got the project. She's playing him." Elena ignored them. She had work to do. One Friday night, she was alone in the office at 11 p.m. when Alexander emerged from his office. "You're still here," he observed. "Final revisions," Elena said, rubbing her tired eyes. "The presentation is Monday." Alexander walked over and looked at her screen. "These are excellent." "Thank you." "Take a break," Alexander said. "You've been working 14-hour days." "I'm fine." "Elena." His voice was firm. "Take a break." Elena sighed and leaned back in her chair. Alexander disappeared into his office and returned with 2 glasses and a bottle of whiskey. "I don't usually drink at work," Elena said. "It's midnight on a Friday," Alexander replied, pouring 2 glasses. "This doesn't count as work." He handed her a glass and sat down across from her. They drank in comfortable silence for a moment. "Can I ask you something?" Elena said finally. "Go ahead." "Why are you really so invested in this project?" Elena asked. "Meridian is big, but Apex has bigger accounts. Why does this one matter so much to you?" Alexander was quiet for a moment, swirling the whiskey in his glass. "Because it's the first hotel my father designed before he died," he said quietly. "He built this company. The Meridian was his masterpiece. They're renovating it, and I wanted someone who would respect that legacy. Someone who understood that buildings aren't just structures. They're memories." Elena felt something shift between them. This was the first time Alexander had revealed anything truly personal. "I'll honor that," Elena said softly. "I promise." Alexander looked at her, and for the first time, she saw vulnerability in his eyes. "I know you will." They sat there, the office quiet around them, the city lights glowing through the windows. Elena felt the air between them charged with something unspoken. "I should go," she said, standing up quickly. "It's late." "Elena." Alexander stood too. He was close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. "Thank you for understanding." "It's just a project," Elena said, but her voice came out breathless. "No," Alexander said quietly. "It's not." Elena left before she could do something stupid. But as she rode the elevator down, her heart was racing. She was falling for her boss. And that was the most dangerous thing she could possibly do. The scandal. The following Monday, Elena arrived early for the big presentation. She had rehearsed everything 100 times. She was ready. But when she walked into the office, the atmosphere was wrong. People were whispering, staring at their phones, looking at her with expressions of shock and pity. Michael Torres approached her quickly. "Elena, you need to see this." He showed her his phone. It was a gossip blog post titled, "Apex Design CEO's Secret Affair with Employee." There were photos. Elena and Alexander in his office, late at night, visible through the glass walls. The angle made it look intimate, inappropriate. There were quotes from anonymous sources claiming they'd been sleeping together for months, that Elena had seduced her way into her position. Elena felt sick. "This isn't real. We were just working." "I know," Michael said sympathetically. "But it looks bad." Elena's phone started ringing. Reporters. The story was spreading. Alexander emerged from his office, his face dark with fury. "My office," he said to Elena. "Now." Elena followed him inside. As soon as the door closed, Alexander turned to her. "This is Marcus," he said coldly. "I'm sure of it. He leaked this to sabotage you." "It's working," Elena said, her voice shaking. Everyone thinks we're having an affair. Are we? Alexander asked suddenly. Elena looked at him, stunned. What? Are we having an affair? Alexander repeated, his eyes intense. Because I need to know where we stand before I burn Marcus's career to the ground. We've been working together, Elena said. That's all. Is that really all? Alexander asked, stepping closer. Because it doesn't feel like just work to me anymore. Elena's heart pounded. Alexander, we can't. Why not? He demanded. Because of office politics? Because people are already talking? The damage is done, Elena. We might as well make it worth it. Because I don't know if I can trust you, Elena said honestly. You manipulated me. You tested me. You've been controlling everything from the start.